Hi everybody, this is the Hoodoo Butterfly and I'm back with another video. So in our last video we spoke about, I guess I spoke about, watched, but I spoke about meditation. In this video I'll just be talking about therapy. I wanted to talk about therapy on my page because, let me see, why did I want to talk about therapy? I wanted to talk about therapy because it's been a worthwhile process for me in terms of finding out who I am, discovering what I like, realizing, what my triggers are. It's been a really, really, really big help with me finding my voice, expressing myself, and I think most importantly, healing and managing anxiety, because I do have, the generalized anxiety disorder thing. I think most people do, but I definitely have it. I've had anxiety my entire life. I remember being anxious as a child. And I remember feeling nervous. I remember having the heart palpitations. Like, I can tell you step by step how, how anxiety has affected my life and how I gave it the power to. Sometimes I still do, but it's a lifelong process. And my therapist was really instrumental in helping me to slow down. Like, I was always used to rushing around and being busy, and it wasn't until I think it was maybe like one of our first phone calls he told me, you know, I was looking for something when he called me, and he was like, well, don't rush around because it'll only make your anxiety worse. Like, that was one of the most important things that he's ever told me, because I never realized how busyness can make you anxious. Like, sometimes I feel like anxiety is like dormant. Like, you have anxiety, but it's not bothering you at that moment until something triggers you to feel anxious. Like, everybody's anxiety goes off from different things in the environment, from things people say to us, from activities that we have to do, or even most of the times the stuff we don't want to do. Yeah, so I never realized that being busy and rushing around, if not controlled and if I don't take time for self-care, my anxiety gets a lot worse. So that was one thing that I learned from therapy, and therapy also helped me to, it gave me a safe place to express myself where I wouldn't be judged, and it gave me the freedom to, I think most importantly, not judge myself, not be as hard on myself as I have been in life. And even in saying that, like, me being hard on myself is something that I'm learning to deconstruct. And therapy and meditation and journaling has helped me really take that kind of, not self-critique, it's another word I'm thinking about. It's helped me deconstruct that notion of I have to be hard on myself or I have to do certain things the right way. It's helped me to approach and, effectively manage my habit of perfectionism. It's helped me with dealing with my feelings or dealing with things that trigger me in a very real way. If it doesn't bother somebody else, but it's something that bothers me, it's still as valid because I am me. And if it's something that triggers me or bothers me or makes me feel a way, then it's better to just try to deal with it, and then instead of sweeping it under the rug, or in my opinion even worse, you just act like it didn't happen. Like, oh, it happened, but you just avoid it. Avoidance will only work but for so long. At least that's what I've learned. So writing things out has definitely helped me in terms of the journaling, and I've always been a writer, so writing things out was would be the process for me to start talking to my therapist about stuff. And I say that because, like, journaling was cool for me. Like, the journaling is kind of like, I guess, therapy with myself when I'm not talking to my therapist. But if I write something in my journal that's hard for me to talk about, when I get to my therapist, it's easier for me to pinpoint, like, 3 days ago, I was, like, really upset about something. But my appointment with him might not have been until, like, a week later. So I'll just write it down. So the journaling has definitely been a form of therapy for me, because I'm able to write down how I feel in that moment. And then sometimes I come back later and I'm just like, oh, it doesn't really bother me anymore. But if it still bothers me, that's the whole point of the therapy thing. So I can talk about, like, yeah, this really bothered me, or something that I realized after the session that made me think. So I guess this is a video about therapy and journaling. Looky there. But yeah, my therapist, he wasn't, I know sometimes people, they want to make sure that the therapist is exactly like them. I hope that if that's something that you want, if it's good for you, I hope you get it, but you might not, for a variety of reasons. But that's really neither here nor there. But I know people will ask me, like, well, you're a black woman, was your therapist black? No, my therapist was a white guy named Chris, and he was, like, a huge part of me getting to this place in my life, a healthier place. Like, he helped me work through a lot of the pain that I had from being in an abusive relationship. He helped me work through, that whole deconstruction of being hard on myself. He helped me to cheer myself on, to be proud of myself. He helped me to recognize that I'm deserving of things that I want to have that I didn't get to have when I was a kid. Like, he helped me a lot. Like, he did exactly what therapists are supposed to do. He's awesome. But yeah, my therapist really helped me with, I guess, anything and everything you can think of. He helped me process my feelings of anger about stuff that I was going through, even about pent up emotions and feelings that I had about stuff that I went through as a kid, or stuff that I went through as a teenager. I'm only 26. But he helped me work through anything that I wanted to work through. Like, he never gave me, this is what we got to do today. Like, and he always would, like, interject with, like, really, really good questions that make you be like, oh, okay, I gotta, think about that part of it. And it was really, really helpful. But I spoke to my therapist when I was happy. I spoke to my therapist when I was sad. I spoke to my therapist when I was really sad. Like, I spoke to my therapist happy, sad, angry, sleepy. It was the 7 dwarfs. I spoke to him through every emotion. And that's what any good therapist should do. They have, they should meet you where you're at. No matter if you're having, a good day, whether you're having a great day, a bad day, like an okay kind of day where you don't know where you're feeling. Like, the therapist, in my opinion, the therapist is to challenge you and to help you figure out some things that you can't figure out on your own, but also that they have to let you sometimes figure out stuff on your own too. Because he would ask me questions that I didn't know the answer to, and I would have to think about it. Or sometimes he would ask me things because he wanted to see where I was, because if he needed to challenge it in order for me to be better or feel better about myself, because I could be very hard on myself, he did that. So I hope that whoever wants a therapist, or you kind of been curious about it, don't try everything you're curious about. My mom told me not to do that. But what I will say, if you are curious about a therapist, it might be a positive, helpful form of curiosity that you're feeling, because it might take you more than one try. Because the first therapist that I had in early 2021, I didn't feel like she saw me for who I was. I didn't feel like she heard me. It was a very, stereotypical therapy session. And I was like, this is not for me. I don't feel comfortable opening up. But upon my second try, because sometimes in life you have to give things multiple tries before we get what we want, I found Chris. And Chris was really, really helpful for me. And I didn't, how long was I with Chris? I think I had my therapist maybe about half of like a year and a half. So we developed, a standard client therapist relationship, and he was very, very, very helpful, and I'll always be grateful to the therapist that I had. It's kind of like having a teacher. Like, we have teachers that we remember and that we're going to love for the rest of our lives because those teachers made us feel important. They listened to us, like, they supported us. And then there's teachers that, oh, I didn't really like that teacher. Like, they're not my favorite. I don't miss them. I don't want them to sign my yearbook. Like, that's fine. But you kind of got it. I would advise anybody who wants to try therapy or who has been encouraged to try therapy or is in therapy right now and you feel like giving up because you don't like it or you're not comfortable yet or you don't like the therapist, I would just say try to give it a try, and I hope that it can be affordable because some of the most important services in our country are not covered the way they should be, but that's an opinion of my own. But I hope that you find a therapist that works with you and not against you. And I hope that you work with yourself and you don't work against yourself, because a good therapist will challenge you and you'll have to think about why do you feel certain ways, why do you do certain things. And when you really, really, really can't figure it out, that's when they'll tell you, well, you might be struggling with ABCD because of what happened in year 1, 2, 3. Like, it might be things like that, but I think that everyone is deserving of trying therapy because it's really beneficial to you if you're blessed enough, and I hope you all are, if you're blessed and lucky enough to have a therapist that cares and that helps and that takes their time, because that was my experience on the second go round. And actually I was in therapy when I was in college, but that's it wasn't as intensive as this chapter in my life when I was in my early 20s or mid 20s, I should say. But I hope that if you do need therapy or you want to try it or people have been suggesting it to you, I think that you should go for it. And if you meet a therapist and you guys don't mesh that good the first time, I think you just take a minute and try again. Or while you're looking for a therapist, because I know it's not a overnight process. I used to be a social worker, so I know the intake process for things. Sometimes it takes a couple of weeks, but there's all kinds of different forms of reflecting that you can do. You can journal, you can paint, you can draw, just anything to try to connect more with yourself. But yeah, therapy, in my opinion, if you're asking the hoodoo butterfly, is definitely worth a try, and I do not regret it in any way, shape, or form. I do not regret it, and I would go back if I wanted to. And if I really needed to, I probably would try it again. I'll probably be hesitant because it might be a different therapist, but it's something that, if you have to do it a couple of times throughout the course of your life, there's nothing wrong with that. That's perfectly fine. But therapy has been helpful to me, and so has journaling, because journaling allows me to express myself to myself. Like, sometimes we have we have emotions and we're like, oh, I don't know what I'm thinking, I don't know what I'm feeling. Me writing it down helps me to identify why I'm feeling this way. What am I feeling? How did I get to this feeling? Like, it helps me to piece things together. And in me doing that, my anxiety is not as severe as it used to. I feel very, very, very calm after journaling because it's a form of mindfulness, like I spoke about in my last video, if you saw it. Because it helps me to just slow down and put the pieces together. Or a lot of times it helps me to take things apart. And sometimes you got to take things apart to really, really, really understand, even if you have to put it back together again. Like, most of life is putting things back together again for some reason. But that's my that's my video about therapy and journaling, and I hope that whoever sees this video, that you learned something, that you got something from it, and you'll never know if therapy will help you unless you try. So I encourage you to try, and I think if you try it, that you'll be really, 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 really good at it. And I hope your therapist is really, 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 really good at it too. But blessings to everyone, and wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful day or a wonderful night if it's nighttime over there. Bye, guys.